Exposed, the sinister secrets of the cursed military base in Appalachia. No one dares to discuss. Sarah had heard whispers about towns like this dying, abandoned hopes lurking beneath the surface, but nothing could prepare her. As she navigated the worn streets of the Appalachian town, she felt the weight of secrets buried deeper than the roots of the forsaken trees lining the road. A crumbling military base loomed in the distance, casting its dark silhouette against the bruised sky. It felt alive, almost as if breathing hell into the quiet streets. This was supposed to be a fresh start for her and Jake, but with every neighbor's furtive glance, a chill crawled down her spine. As Sarah unpacked in their cramped rental, she turned to find Jake at the window, eyes glued to the base, a haunted wonder dancing in his gaze. The kids at school had piqued his interest with tales of cursed grounds, stories steeped in tragedy and rebellion, the pulse of youthful defiance stirring inside him. It felt innocent, just part of adolescence, but Sarah couldn't shake off the sense of unease. As night fell, the sun disappeared behind the rolling hills, and with it, her small sense of safety. When Jake slipped out that evening, her heart raced. Just a few hours, she told herself as the clock ticked louder, each second echoing in her mind. She called familiar homes, and with every no she received, dread twisted tighter. Panic twisted knot after knot in her stomach. Where could he be? The shadows of the trees and the darkness that enveloped the base mingled, feeding on her fears. The frantic search began. Desperate moms joined her, voices rising, "Where's our kids?" Fear reflected in their eyes. It was like searching for ghosts, echoes of nights long lost. Sarah strained her ears, trying to pick up sounds, a giggle, a shout, something. But the only response came from half-closed doors peering out like wary animals. There were no welcome smiles, just knowing nods. Then, one cracked door swung open, revealing a disheveled woman whispering about loss, about the land that had taken too much. "It keeps you, you know," she hissed, and with each word, the air thickened. Sarah tried to dismiss it, but a pit dug deeper in her gut. Little did they know, trust wasn't just a risk, it had become an illusion, a manufactured calm in a tempest. The night veered on, peeling away layers of her sanity. She knocked on door after door, determination stealing her. The recollection of everyday conversations she overheard echoed the secrets, the cursed stories. She could feel the pulse of unspoken chaos creeping through the town. Why did they all flinch at mention of the base? Why did it loom over them like a vulture? The entire community seemed woven into silence, hushed by fear, topped off with a sprinkle of complicity, and the tension sunk in deeper. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Confronting someone she had once found comfort in, a powerful figure in town, felt like stepping on a landmine. The facade shattered trust, just an illusion. When whispered rumors suggested a powerful hand was pushing the narrative of dread, it hit her like a blow. The night held deeper secrets than she anticipated. The shadows from the base were reaching for her. And the last thread of normalcy was slipping away. She had to find Jake, before whatever was lurking consumed him as it had consumed so many before him. As she stood, trembling at the edge of the forgotten lands, Sarah felt the chill of the unholy connection form between the base and the heart of the town. The darkness was alive. And it wanted more. Would she dare to unravel the darkness before it fully wrapped around everything she loved? The moon hung low, casting a pale sheen over the town as Sarah raced down the cracked pavement. Each step pounded beneath her like a warning drum, the rhythm of her heart matching its beat. Where was Jake? The thought twisted in her mind, gnashing like tortured teeth, dragging her deeper into an abyss of panic. Courage surged through her, propelling her toward the military base, now an insidious specter rising from the shadows. Its tall fences loomed, barbed wire glinting in the moonlight, and a bitter breeze carried with it the scent of decay. She could almost hear whispers threaded with malice, the mournful cries of lost boys lingering in the air. Were any of those boys her son? As she approached the gates, her breath hitched. The entrance swung open slightly, creaking as if inviting her into a crypt where secrets lay buried. "Jake!" she called, her voice swallowed by the void around her. Silence answered back, heavy and suffocating. Taking a step forward, uncertainty flooded her gut. The ground felt wrong, the earth warm when it should have been cool, pulsating like a heartbeat beneath her feet. Sarah hesitated, the dread of the unknown gnawing at her resolve. Yet, she couldn't turn back, not now, not when Jake's safety hung in the balance. Deep within, the heart of the base throbbed with a dark energy, an energy that spoke of sorrow and blood. She slipped through the gap in the gate, each movement wrapped in stealth, but the shadows seemed to sway as she went, almost watching, waiting. Her breathing quickened, light like fleeting whispers skimming the back of her neck. She pressed on, determination heavy in her bones. A distant thud lined the shadows, echoing off concrete walls. Fear replaced every ounce of hope she had held on to. "Jake!" she shouted, voice cracking with desperation. The sound ricocheted into the dark maw, drawing further silence. Sections of the base were eerily derelict, graffiti-stained walls murmured of stories long since lost. Deeper and deeper she ventured, the pathway veering into darkness that felt almost alive, wrapping itself around her with an intent she couldn't decipher. Then, a faint sound broke through the faintest giggle. Her heart raced. "Jake!" she called again, stomach churning with each second that passed. She took off toward the sound, heart pounding against her chest. Corroded doors beckoned her push against the crumbling structure. Inside, the air was thick and fetid, a stale scent pooling in her lungs as she choked on suffocating shadows. She saw figures in the dark, children's silhouettes flitting about like lost souls, and for a moment, a surge of hope illuminated her spirit. They were children, like Jake. But as she approached, the chill crawling up her arms screamed at her to stop. Their faces were gray, ethereal, and empty. Eyes wide yet unseeing. They began to scream, a cacophony of terror that clawed at her mind, their mouths moving yet no sounds forming, whispering secrets she couldn't understand. Then, she spotted him, a flash of red from Jake's jacket. Relief surged through her, pulsing hot and desperate, but as she sprinted forward, the children pushed against her like phantoms, blocking her path. One step, then another, her sanity unraveling in the grasp of insanity. "Get away from him!" she yelled, lunging, but as she reached Jake, the horrifying realization washed over her. He was standing amongst the phantoms, grinning. His face was twisted into something unrecognizable, a sickening mirror of joy. "Join us, Mom," he whispered, and her heart plummeted at the sound of his voice, yet it felt alien, echoing through the nightmare. The weight of dread crashed down. What had she stumbled into? She grasped Jake's shoulder, but his form felt different, colder. Her heart sank, the shadows closed in, hungry and alive. The darkness swirled tighter around her, and fear consumed her as she realized she was about to lose the one person she fought for. What unseen evil was tethering Jake to this place? What price would she have to pay to save him from its grasp? The shadows grew heavier as the echoes of Jake's voice faded, leaving Sarah gasping, teetering at the edge of despair. The children surrounded her, their hollow eyes bore into her soul, relentless and cold. She released Jake's shoulder, stepping back, her heart pounding wildly. "What happened to you?" she croaked, dread pooling in her stomach as a deep sense of foreboding settled over her. Jake's smile remained too wide, too knowing. "We've been waiting for you, Mom. Just like the others." His voice dripped with an unsettling sing-song lilt, punctuating the silence around them. The other kids swayed gently, their hands reaching out, beckoning her to join the ranks of the lost. A chill sliced through the air, and Sarah shook her head violently. "No. You're not like them," she screamed, eyes darting among the ghastly figures. Panic surged through her, these children they weren't right. As she took another step back, something stirred among the deeper shadows of the room. A rustling sound like dry leaves crunching underfoot echoed ominously, rising in a crescendo of threatening whispers. "Leave us alone!" Sarah cried out, her resolve hardening. But the children picked up the rhythm, chanting, join us, you won't escape." Their words crawled on her skin, igniting a primal fear deep within, but where could she escape to? The darkness around her seemed to pulse, alive and watching. She spun around, desperately seeking a way out. Ahead, a glimmer of light flickered from a nearby corridor, a doorway framed in dim radiance that seemed to promise safety or at least an exit from this waking nightmare. "Jake!" She turned back to him, willing the memory of her son's face to break through the despair. "Come with me. We need to leave." She reached out again, but the moment faded, unanchored by his lifeless smile. "Mom, why don't you want to stay?" he asked, tilting his head in a way that twisted her heart, disgust washing over her. "You'll be happy with us. You'll understand." But all she could understand was the terror curling in her gut. "This isn't you, Jake. You have to fight it," she shouted, voice laced with determination as she backed towards the flickering light. A growl erupted from the corner of the room, low and elongated. The shadows, formerly just passive witnesses, twisted and contorted, forming dark figures that crept closer. "Go, go!" her instincts screamed. With a frantic burst of adrenaline, Sarah turned and sprinted for the light. Breath came in short gasps as she stumbled over debris, propelled by the haunting cries and tormented whispers behind her. "Join us," they echoed, desperate and disembodied, their farming spectral hands reaching out, trying to drag her back. Panic clawed at her throat, bursting through the doorway into the corridor. She inhaled the stale air, her eyes searching frantically for a sign, a hint of where to go next. The light ahead pulsed feeble yet promising. Shadows lurked in the corners, spreading like ink, but the corridor seemed to stretch before her, branching outward into a labyrinth of regrets and horrors. Suddenly, a figure loomed at the edge of the light, and her heart plummeted. Was it another lost child? Or something worse? With shaking limbs, she squinted, trying to spot familiar features, but what emerged was cloaked in darkness, a silhouette she couldn't recognize. "Sarah," it growled, voice low and menacing, twisting her name on a breath of malice that chilled her bones. "You shouldn't have come here." Her blood ran cold. This base, this twisted place, what had it done to her son? What had it transformed them all into? She realized, the answers awaited just within the shadows, taunting her. Would she find Jake in there, or something far more sinister? The air was thick with dread, and uncertainty surged in her veins as she edged closer to the light, barely able to breathe. What lay beyond that light? Would it be a path to save Jake or a descent into a darker horror? As the figure stepped forward, its identity unraveled before her, and a shattering revelation gripped her heart. The darkness whispered her name, guiding her toward a fate she had not bargained for. Who was waiting for her at the heart of that flickering shimmer, and what truths about the base would she uncover when she got there? Sarah's breath hitched as the figure stepped into the pool of light. Her eyes widened, and for a sickening moment, hope sparked within her before it flickered out like an untrustworthy flame. The figure was a man, but not just any man. Memories flooded her mind, swirling like the shadows around her. "Dad?" she whispered, voice trembling. The man's face was gaunt, eyes sunken into dark hollows. He wore a tattered military uniform, faded with stains of time. "You shouldn't be here, Sarah," he rasped, a warning layered with dread. "The base, it changes people. What happened to you?" The words clawed their way past her, shock, twinged with disbelief. I thought you were dead." His twisted smile formed again, just like Jake's, but with a haunting edge. "I died long ago." He stepped closer, light illuminating the grotesque features twisting his face. "This place takes, but it gives too in ways you can't imagine." "No. I need to find Jake," Sarah cried, holding her ground despite every instinct urging her to flee. "You have to help me." He shook his head, sorrow mixing with madness. "Jake is no longer your son. He belongs to the shadows now like the rest." The shadows behind him writhed, and she could hear the low moan of the children, echoing her son's mockery. "Join us, join us." The voices wrapped around her like a thick, suffocating blanket. "No!" she yelled, shaking her head in defiance. A frail glimmer of her father's spirit surfaced, but it faltered under the weight of the lurking darkness. "You have to fight it. I can't lose more family." "Family." The word dripped from his lips like poison. "This is our family now, Sarah. We're all waiting, yearning for you to join us at the heart of this chaos." A flicker of recognition broke through the haze of dread as she recalled faded stories of something far more sinister. Here the base was built on a history of loss, whispers of secret experiments conducted on the human psyche, twisting innocence into something evil. "Those children, they aren't real," she shouted, her voice barely masking the panic beneath. "You can't really like this. You're trapped." "My love for you binds me here," he rasped, shifting closer, shadows curling like serpents around his legs. "Step into the light, Sarah. You won't have to worry about anything. You can be with us forever." But that light, it was a trap, too. The flickering glow now seemed an invitation to madness. She realized she stood at a precipice, the depth of despair yawning before her. "Please," she begged, feeling the walls of her resolve crumble. "I just want my family back." With sudden clarity, the man in the shadows stepped closer, allowing her to glimpse the torment behind his eyes. "You can't save anyone, and there's something worse lurking beneath the surface." He raised a hand, and something stirred behind him, a monstrous silhouette unfurling, darker and more twisted than the children at the door. It let out a low, rumbling growl, and Sarah felt her pulse race. What is that?" she gasped, stepping back into the cold grip of the corridor. "Something we awoke," he answered, his voice barely a whisper as the malevolence grew stronger. "You have to go. Save yourself." The warning felt hollow, yet undeniable. She turned, instinct urging her toward an exit. As she tore down the corridor, heart thudding against her ribs, she had one last glimpse over her shoulder. The shadows melted away, drawing back to reveal the monstrous creature, a formless threat with writhing limbs that echoed an ear-splitting wail, shaking her to her core. "Find me, Sarah," her father's voice chased her, mingling with the children's chant. "Join us," but she could feel it now. The darkness was alive and hungry, and she needed to escape before it swallowed her whole. Breathless, she stumbled into another corridor, her eyes darting to find any clue of an exit before it was too late. The pulsating darkness pushed against her, whispering promises of joining her family. What other horrors lay in wait ahead? Would she find a way to save Jake, or was she stepping deeper into the very abyss that claimed her? "Father," the path twisted before her, choices rippling like waves outwards. Each decision echoed a chilling threat. With every step she took, the darkness reached for her, whispering secrets of what lies beyond in an insatiable chorus of despair. Sarah sprinted through the corridor, the chilling grip of fear tightening around her throat. The shadowy creature's growl reverberated in her ears, a menacing drumbeat of terror that pushed her legs to move faster. With each step, the darkness stretched out, a black sea swirling and crashing against her sanity. Not real," she whispered, a mantra aimed at quelling the panic bubbling up inside her. Her heart raced, matching the rhythm of the frightening whispers under the surface, the nameless voices solidifying into forms she would dare not recognize. The walls loomed closer as she pressed forward, creating a tunnel that felt like it might swallow her whole. Flickering lights buzzed overhead, fighting against the engulfing shadows that clawed at her heels. Each flicker felt like a warning, demanding she turn back. But back was where the monstrosity lurked, and forward was the only path she had, no matter how dark. Then a sound stopped her dead in her tracks. A soft sob echoed through the corridor, cutting through the chaos like a knife. It was a familiar sound, one she had heard in her nightmares. "Jake," she called, her voice trembling. Was he nearby? Could he still be saved? Following the sound, she rounded a corner and faced a door, old and weathered, with peeling paint and a rusted handle. The sobs grew louder, more desperate, and with each breath, her determination hardening into iron. "I'm coming for you," she yelled, gripping the handle. As she pushed the door open, the hinges creaked ominously, announcing her presence to whatever lay beyond. The sight within sent a chill coursing through her veins. The room was cluttered with children's toys, their formerly bright colors now muted and faded. In the corner, a small figure trembled, shadowy and indistinct, making weak noises of distress. Jake. She stepped deeper into the room, heart aching with hope. But the closer she got, the more the shadows twisted, revealing the truth of what the darkness hid. The figure straightened abruptly and Sarah froze. It was not Jake. Instead, the child stood like a marionette, strings pulled taut by invisible hands. Hollow eyes stared back, reflecting the void that sucked in warmth and happiness. "Help us!" A chorus of voices rang out, a composite of begging children echoing from the walls as well. "Join us, we're waiting, get away!" Sarah shrieked, taking a step back, her mind fighting against the illusion. The room pulsated, and she felt herself losing ground, slipping toward the grasp of whatever was binding these souls. The floor began to shift beneath her feet, resembling the waves of a dark ocean that could swallow her whole. In that instant of hesitance, shadows began to swirl vigorously, coiling tighter around the childlike figure as if feeding on the fear emanating from Sarah. "You can't escape." It was her father's voice again, mocking and hollow, echoing through the dim light. "There's nowhere to run." "No." She stumbled back, yearning for the light outside, for the air that felt less suffocating. "I won't give in." With resolve, she turned to run, but the shadows tightened their grip, tendrils snaking around her legs. She could feel herself sinking deeper into the abyss, the echoes of her son and father merging into a cacophony of despair. Just when she thought all was lost, a sudden brightness burst from the open door, illuminating the dark room. Was it real, or another trick? "Sarah!" A voice beckoned, breaking through the suffocating darkness. "Get out. Now." She hesitated, glancing back at the figure and shadows clawing for her. Would she leave without knowing if Jake was alive? The light intensified, casting away the creeping shadows. A hand reached through the door, shimmering against the black. "Hurry." She could feel every heartbeat pulse in her ears, drowning out everything else. Then, with sheer will, she lunged towards the light, grabbing hold of the outstretched hand, pulling herself free. But as they broke into the hallway, she looked back one last time. Just before the door slammed shut, she caught a glimpse of the child's face, Jake's face twisted in torment, surrounded by shadows, now a permanent resident of that cursed space. Breathing hard, Sarah's heart sank. "I have to go back." "No." The figure holding her screamed, pulling her further from the door. "You can't. Let me go." She shouted, writhing to free herself. "I can't leave him." Reality shattered behind her as she struggled, shadows reaching from the door, fingers clawing. The child's cries weighed heavy on her heart, an anchor dragging her down. What had she unleashed? What other horrors lurked in the depths of the base? She had escaped this time, but it was clear the darkness was not finished with her yet. And then came the chilling realization: what other secrets did the base hide that would rip her away from everything she loved? Sarah stumbled down the corridor, heart pounding, both from the exertion and the horror of what she had witnessed. The clutches of despair threatened to swallow her whole as she ran, desperate to escape the echoes of that haunting child's voice, the twisted reflection of Jake, trapped in a shadowy prison. "Why is this happening?" she cried, the walls whispering back in mockery, their voices a menacing chorus that sent shudders through her. She barely registered the figure that had pulled her from the brink of oblivion, a stranger, too engulfed in their own terror to offer solace. "Where are we going?" she panted, clinging to the figure's arm as they rushed around another corner, the flickering lights trailing them like dying stars. Just keep moving. We have to find a way out. The stranger shouted, their eyes wide with panic, but the corridor stretched infinitely in front of them, shadows dancing along the floor like a predator stalking its prey. Sarah could feel the weight of it all pressing against her, squeezing the air from her lungs. She glanced at her companion, catching a flicker of their face in the dim light. "Who are you?" she demanded, her fear turning to frustration. "Why are you here? Does it matter?" They snapped back. "We're all trapped here, just like you." Trapped? A wave of dread washed over her, the realization that they weren't alone lingering in the air. "What do you mean?" Before they could answer, the lights flickered violently, plunging them into darkness. Sarah felt the ground shudder beneath her feet. An unearthly growl erupted from the depths of the corridor, and her blood ran cold. The creature was still hunting her. "Run!" her companion urged, pulling her along just as the light sputtered back to life. As they continued, Sarah could see doors lining the corridor like teeth in a gaping maw. Each door was marked with strange symbols, their meanings lost to her. She could hear whispers, faint and chilling, drifting from the cracks and seams. It felt like all the souls within the base were reaching out, trying to pull her back. "Look!" The stranger pointed toward a door at the far end, its surface shimmering as if alive. "That one could lead us out. We have to try." They raced towards it, but the shadows lunged, snapping like jaws around their ankles. Sarah stumbled, nearly falling as icy fingers clawed at her legs, pulling her toward the darkness that danced along the floor. Screams echoed in her mind, the pleas of children, lost souls imprisoned in this nightmare. "No! Let go of me!" she screamed, kicking her legs wildly, fighting against the grip of despair. With every ounce of strength, she dragged herself forward, feeling her companion's hand slipping away. "Sarah!" they shouted, their voice breaking through the cacophony. "Don't you dare give up!" In one last desperate push, she hurled herself forward, crashing against the door. To her surprise, it swung open, revealing a blinding light that contrasted starkly with the darkness creeping behind her. She was propelled into the room, collapsing to the ground, gasping for breath. The door slammed shut with a thud, silencing the haunting cries momentarily. She looked up, and her eyes widened. This room was filled with monitors, showing various parts of the base, terrifying images flickering across the screens. "Welcome," a voice echoed from the shadows, smooth as silk but laced with menace. "You've made it quite far, but the best is yet to come." Her heart dropped as an unseen force twisted the light, illuminating the figure behind it. A man stood there, an unsettling grin stretching across his face. "You thought you could escape? There are far worse horrors than what you just faced, and you're not leaving until we unveil every secret." As the images on the screens morphed into visions of torment and despair, Sarah's mind raced. Still, she clutched her resolve tightly. "What do you want from me?" She steadied herself, heart pounding in her chest, ready to confront whatever was hiding in the shadows. "You're here to find your son," the man said, narrowing his eyes. "But first, you must face your greatest fears. Only then can the truth be revealed." Unease knotted in her stomach, the shadows at the edge of the room pulsating, hanging like a fog waiting to swallow her again. And with that revelation, Sarah understood the true battle was only beginning. Could she navigate through her nightmares to uncover the hidden truths of this cursed place, or would she be consumed by the very darkness she sought to understand? The screens glowed ominously, bathing the cramped room in a sickly hue. They flickered images of the base, an unsettling tour of suffering and despair. Sarah's stomach twisted. Each image was a reminder of the horrors she could barely comprehend. Faces of lost children, their eyes wide with terror, flashed before her. Their cries echoed in her ears, intertwining with the man's mocking laughter. "Do you see them?" he taunted, stepping closer, his figure shrouded in darkness. "They're all waiting for you. Their stories need to be told. Every wound exposed, every fear unveiled. What do you want from me? She repeated, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. The man's grin widened. You will piece together their stories, brick by brick, until the walls of this nightmare crumble. Only then can you find your son. The lights flickered again, and sweat trickled down Sarah's back. Time was slipping away. She had to act before the shadows closed in again. Where do I start? Her voice wavered, but determination surged beneath her fear. Choose wisely, he said, gesturing toward the wall of screens. Start with the one that calls to you most. Sarah's gaze darted across the daunting array of images, but one in particular snagged her attention: a boy with dark hair, his tiny hands outstretched in agony. That familiar face pricked at something deep within her. Jake, her breath hitched, and she stepped closer to the screen. The moment she did, the images seemed to shimmer and swirl. The boy's mouth formed a silent scream. Stop. Please. Sarah cried, instinctively backing away, but the image seeped into her thoughts like poison. Feel it. The man insisted, his voice rising. Feel the raw terror of it all. Only through their pain can you find the path to your son. The room trembled as shadows advanced, tendrils stretching, reaching out to ensnare her. She felt their icy grasp wrap around her legs, paralyzing her. Panic filled her chest as the boy's image amplified, the screen flooding with sound, the piercing wails of children, chaos spiraling out of control. Enough. Sarah screamed, forcing herself to stand tall, yanking her thoughts back from the brink. I won't let them pull me down. Where is he? Suddenly, a new monitor flickered to life. It displayed a dimly lit room not unlike the one she stood in, but something was distinctly different. A figure was hunched over, bound and trembling with fear. She recognized the small frame. Jake! She gasped as the sheer terror of her surroundings morphed again, magnifying her dread. Ah, there he is, the man mused, a satisfied smirk plastered on his face. But the road to him is fraught with danger. Are you ready to confront the truth? Tell me where he is. Sarah's voice echoed, emotion overwhelming her. Only when you dive into the darkness first, he replied smoothly. And understand, the deeper you go, the harder it will be to return. Before Sarah could respond, the ground beneath her buckled. The shadows writhed, forming a whirlpool of darkness. Panic shot through her veins as she grasped at anything to hold on to. The room blurred, becoming a liquid nightmare, pulling her into a void. Sarah! The voice of her missing son startled her as she spiraled into nothingness. Jake! She screamed, the sensation of falling mixing with fear and urgency. Face your darkest fears, Sarah. The man's voice faded, distorting as the darkness pulled her away. She braced herself, tumbling into memory's horrors she thought she could forget. The room twisted like a funhouse, but she soared through the chaos, looking for any sign of Jake. What awaited her on the other side, she could only imagine. Would she discover the truth, or would the shadows claim her for good? In an instant, everything went black. The only thing she felt was the icy tendril of despair. And then, a light flickered to life, revealing a door, splintered and sagging, right in front of her. What lay beyond it? Was it freedom? Or something far worse? The splintered door loomed before Sarah like a gateway to hell, casting shadows that danced mockingly at her feet. Her heart raced, pounding in her ears, drowning out the cries echoing in her mind. Hope flickered there, but fear clawed at her throat, constricting like a vice. She reached for the door, hesitant fingers brushing against the rough wood. It felt alive, pulsing with dark energy. With a deep breath, she pushed it open. The door creaked, revealing a vast room that felt more like a tomb than a place of refuge. Dim light seeped in from shattered windows, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch and twist, mocking her every step. Dust hung in the air, and the oppressive silence pressed down, heavy and suffocating. As she stepped inside, an overwhelming sense of dread washed over her. Old furniture lay strewn about, covered in tattered plastic, clinging to the lost remnants of a time long gone. A chill wormed its way into her bones, a brush of cold fingers that whispered, "You shouldn't be here." "Jake!" she called, her voice trembling as it shattered the silence. The walls seemed to swallow her words, but she pressed on, her pulse quickening. "Where are you?" A sudden clatter from a dark corner startled her. Sarah's heart leapt. She spun around, her eyes straining to see through the gloom. There, in the distance, something shifted. Was it a shadow? Her breath caught in her throat as dread filled her with leaden weight. "Help me!" The pleading voice sent a shiver down her spine. It was faint, but she could sense the desperation clawing through, pulling her closer. She crept toward the sound, each step tentative, straining her ears for any sign of movement. As she neared the corner, the shadows deepened. They gathered thickly, curling like smoke. It was hard to breathe. The air felt charged with electricity, crackling at her fingertips. And then, dreadfully, a figure emerged from the darkness. A small boy, ragged and dirty, stared back at her. His eyes were hollow, sunken. It hit her like a punch to the gut. The resemblance was undeniable. "Jake?" she gasped, reaching out as his thin, trembling body swayed. "Is it really you?" "Mom," he whispered, his voice barely above a breath. Is that you?" As her heart soared with relief, horror twisted into her gut. She noticed the chains binding him. Dark metal glinted in the dim light, digging into his frail wrists. Panic rose in Sarah like bile, her mind racing. "What has happened to you? Who did this?" They come at night." His voice trembled as tears pooled in his eyes. "They watch. They know everything." "What do you mean?" Sarah pressed, desperation bleeding into her voice. "Who watches you?" Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. Darkness tightened around them, and shadows swirled like a storm. The walls pulsed with unseen energy, vibrating as if fed by their fear. "They want you," Jake whispered, his little body shaking. "If you don't leave you'll be trapped here, too. They want to let you go." "No." Sarah shouted, stepping closer, heart racing. The chains rattled ominously as she reached out again. "I want to let them take you." But the shadows shifted, thick and suffocating, swirling closer to her. She could feel icy tendrils creeping around her ankles, squeezing tighter with each beat of her frightened heart. As despair clawed at her throat, a new voice broke through. It emanated from the darkness, cold and taunting, a sinister chant that made her skin crawl. "Your son is ours, no." She screamed, feeling the grip of darkness tighten, blurring her vision as the shadows threatened to engulf her once again. What would she sacrifice to rescue Jake? Would she have to dive deeper into the horrors of this cursed base? With her resolve wavering, the shadows loomed larger, eclipsing everything. And just as the darkness felt certain to swallow her whole, she heard Jake's voice, sharp and clear, cutting through the blackness. Trust in me." But what kind of trust could she offer in the heart of terror? In the face of everything that lurked beyond her sight? With the tension hanging thick in the air, the choice lay before her: stay and fight, or succumb to the shadows. What awaited her next in this nightmare? Only the darkness held the answer. The shadows thickened, wrapping around Sarah like a suffocating shroud. Jake's voice had cracked the haze, yet the panic inside her spun wildly. Trust in me," echoed in her ears, but trust felt like a fragile thread against the onslaught of dark energy. "Jake!" she screamed again, desperation tearing at her throat. She couldn't leave him. She wouldn't. But fear prickled at her skin as unseen eyes bore into her, hungry. The chant, a cruel chorus, pulsed through the air, relentless and leering. Then suddenly, the shadows shifted again, as if something immense was moving just beyond her sight. With breath hitching in her throat, she turned her head, praying for a glimpse of any escape. A flicker of movement caught her eye, the dull shimmer of chains in the half-light, a glint of metal drawing her deeper into the darkness. Mom, Jake's voice was now a pitiful wail. They're coming. Instinctively she dropped to her knees, trying to reach him, to feel his warmth against her own. The floor was cold, the dust swirling around her making the air heavier, thicker. She grasped at the chains binding him, feeling the cold iron bite into her palms and that moment, a horrible laughter echoed through the room. It was low and guttural, so deep it resonated within her bones. "You play a dangerous game, Sarah," the voice drip-fed with venom. "This place belongs to us. Who are you?" She shouted, terror and fury intertwined, knitting her brows as she searched the abyss for a face to place with that voice. But there was nothing, only shadows, the smothering blackness reaching out as if testing her resolve. "Let go, and you may yet escape," the mocking voice whispered. "Hold on, and you'll become just like him." A wave of dread washed over her as she looked back at Jake. His eyes were wide, pleading now, tears streaking his dirt-stained cheeks. "Mom, please. They want to take you away." In that moment, doubt clawed at her insides. Was she truly strong enough to defy whatever loomed behind those shadows? The darkness whispered lies, seducing her with tales of safety, tempting her to surrender. But Jake's fragile frame reminded her of the stakes her son's fate hung in the balance, tethered to her choices. "Trust me," Jake pleaded, his voice quaking with urgency. "Trust that I'll fight if you fight." She squeezed his wrists, feeling the coolness of the chains. "I'll never turn my back on you," she vowed, her voice firming. "Whatever they are, I will face them." The shadows recoiled as her words sliced through the haze. They hissed and writhed, pulling away slightly as if she had struck them. Hope ignited a fleeting flame in the darkness. With a newfound determination, she rose to her feet, ready to confront the grotesque force that sought to keep her from her son. "Show yourself," she demanded, the echo of her voice shooting through the ancient room. "Let us end this." The laughter intensified, morphing into something menacing. "You think you can fight the inevitable?" the voice mocked. "This base is unforgiving." Suddenly, a figure emerged from the swirling chaos, tall and cloaked in shadow. A smirk pulled at the edges of its lips, revealing teeth like daggers. "Welcome to your nightmare," it hissed at that moment. The lights flickered ominously, plunging the room into a deeper darkness before the light stabilized just enough to reveal horrifying glimpses of more figures lurking in the corners, watching, waiting. Sarah's heart raced as dread curled tightly around her chest. If they were willing to show themselves, then what horrors were they prepared to unleash? And then, as if in a cruel twist, a piercing shriek echoed in the distance, a sound that resonated far too familiar. It was a child's cry, filled with despair, mirroring Jake's own, resonating with a deep ache that left her breathless. "Mom!" Jake screamed over the growing tumult, his voice like shattered glass. Out of the silence, more cries began, multiplying and swelling, an orchestra of anguish. They were drowning out her resolve, drowning her in their sorrow. What were they really fighting? Was she prepared to face a monstrous nightmare where the stakes included both her son's life and that of countless others trapped in this malevolent base? With time slipping away, fear tugging, the shadows closing in, she understood, the confrontation was here, and she had to fight for everything. But was she strong enough to brave the vortex of despair? And if she could not, what would become of Jake? As the figure tightened its grip around them, preparing to unleash horrors unimaginable, Sarah held on to one fragile thought: no matter the sacrifice, she would fight. But the chilling question lingered in her mind: how much light could she summon in a world that thrived on darkness? Sarah stood there, trembling, with darkness swirling like smoke around her. The figure's mocking grin twisted her insides, and the haunting cries of children echoed on repeat in her ears. "You think you're strong enough?" it hissed, its voice laced with malice. "This base is hunger itself, and it feeds on despair. Get away from my son!" She roared, defiance surging within her, drowning out fear. The shadows lunged, eager to engulf her, but Sarah stood her ground. "Trust Jake," she thought, a mantra coursing like electricity. As she fixed her gaze on her son, the shadows recoiled as if struck. He was the flicker of hope in her heart. Shadows attempted to merge again, but her love formed an impenetrable shield. "Jake!" She called again, extending her hand towards him, her heart pounding like a war drum. "I'm coming." But chains rattled an eerie sound that echoed through their prison. "I can break free, Mom. But you have to keep fighting." His words, desperate and trembling, forged a connection that pulsed between them. The dark figure tightened its grip on Jake, mouth curling into a malevolent smile. "He cannot escape. No one can escape without joining the darkness first." In that moment, Sarah felt an undeniable spark of knowledge. She understood now, she could unravel the threads of despair holding Jake captive. The memories of her father came flooding back, his whispers, his warnings. "This place twists love and hope into something vile, but they aren't lost." She shouted, resolve hardening her voice. "Join us," the shadows crooned, their chorus rising and falling like the tide. "No." She shouted back, determination flooding through her veins. "You're nothing but echoes of despair. I want to let you take him." The ground trembled beneath her feet, shadows swirling frantically around, grasping at her resolve. But as they closed in, another flash of light burst through the room. The monitors crackled alive, showing glimpses of children laughing, free from chains, echoes of joy sealing their stories. "Look," Sarah urged, beckoning Jake with urgency. "We can be free. We can change this." Jake's eyes widened. "I remember the laughter," he whispered, the chains at his wrists rattling again. "Focus on it," Sarah cried. She concentrated, visualizing the light, the innocence of that joy. Each breath she took summoned up warmth, banishing the shadows creeping closer. If only she could touch that memory, hook her son's laughter into the very essence of light. Beneath them, the shadows writhed and twisted, as if summoning its last reserve of strength. "You dare resist?" the malevolent voice said, and the figure loomed larger, stretching closer to engulf them both. "Yes," Sarah shouted, clenching her fists. The chains rattled, but she could see a flicker of defiance in Jake's eyes, spurred by her strength. "We refuse to be imprisoned by fear." In an act of fierce determination, Sarah stepped toward Jake, her very essence ignited by the memories of happiness they shared. "We will not be lost," she declared. "We are together, and we will not yield." With that, she called upon the memories, their laughter, their love. Light swelled around her, rippling outwards, and with it came a brilliant warmth. The layer of shadows shrieked, twisting and gnashing, caught in the brilliance Sarah had summoned. The light enveloped them, pushing back the darkness, flickering shadows beginning to fade, retreating. She lunged forward, reaching for Jake, grasping his shoulders. "We will break the bond they have on you, together." A blinding flash shot through the room, releasing waves of energy that tore through the shadows. Jake reached for her, and their fingers entwined, a lightning bolt of unity surging between them. "I believe in us," he cried, and the shadows sputtered, gasping against the light that seared through them. The creature recoiled, howling in agony. Dark tendrils snapped like ropes, unbinding Jake. "No! You'll never escape!" it screamed, as chains fell away. But they were stronger together, a force filled with love and courage that shattered the oppressive grip of darkness. Light poured over them, and Sarah's heart soared as they erupted through the den of shadows. The darkness screamed, "You'll regret this." But it was too late. They were already outside, standing at the precipice of freedom, a vast expanse stretching before them, untainted by despair. Tears streamed down Sarah's cheeks, joy mingled with disbelief. "We did it," she said, pulling Jake into a fierce embrace, savoring the warmth and safety of her son embraced in love. "Is it really over?" he whispered, glancing back as wisps of darkness faded into nothingness. "Yeah, we are free," she replied, holding him close, heart full of hope. The base behind them slowly consumed itself in shadows, whispering lost tales, the world lay before them, unfurling in vibrant hues, and they began to walk together, and just like that, their new journey started, filled with light, laughter, and the promise of love restored. But remember to keep believing. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exclusive stories. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of backing this channel through these actions.